Let's talk Manchester United then. Now, Gary Neville, Jamie Carragher, Roy Keane, bloke I saw in the corner shop the other day, all saying United need a new keeper. Are they going to get one?
Easier said than done, Mike. It's going to be difficult to get a deal done to bring a new goalkeeper in at Manchester United with we're now officially less than 2 weeks left in this transfer window, aren't we?
Is the timing the issue?
It's partly that, but also, does Ruben Amorim want a new goalkeeper? So you've got a situation here. There was talk earlier in this transfer window when there were doubts, major doubts over Andre Onana's future. He then got injured during pre-season. So effectively ruled him out of a move because he was injured. So he was going to be out until the start of the season, people thought. So he wasn't going to get much of a pre-season in. And publicly at least, Ruben Amorim has said that he is backing the three goalkeepers that he's got. Andre Onana, Altay Bayindir and Tom Heaton. Now, there was lots of conjecture yesterday. The team was announced for Manchester United's game against Arsenal and the squad was announced. Andre Onana nowhere to be seen. They interviewed Ruben Amorim before the game. Why isn't he there? Well, is he injured? Is he not fit? No, he's fit. So everyone assumed that Andre Onana had been dropped. He played that down later simply by saying, look, he's hardly had any training time. He's hardly had any game time. And that's why he chose Altay Bayindir ahead of him yesterday. Now, if an offer in these last 2 weeks was to come in for Onana that Manchester United maybe couldn't refuse, then there's the possibility that they would try and see if there's a keeper available that they can bring in. But at the moment, it would be very, very difficult because there's been no offers and there's no sign at this stage that Andre Onana wants to leave Manchester United anyway.
There's quite a good goalkeeper hanging around available. Donnarumma, why don't they just buy him?
Good question. I mean, arguably he's the best goalkeeper in the world at the moment. PSG have made it clear that they are going to sell him in the next 2 weeks. Having said that, even though he's only got a year left on his contract, PSG is still looking for around 40 to 50 million euros. So that is around 40 million pounds. Now, he's also on big wages. The information we have is that Manchester United, Manchester City have not been in contact with his representatives. Now, potentially that could change, as Dharmesh said. If United were to sell Onana, then potentially maybe they'd pick up the phone and contact Donnarumma's representatives. But even then, very, very complicated because there's the big transfer fee and there's his big wages as well. And you'd have to convince him, I think in United's case, to move to Manchester United because he wouldn't have any European football. And he's going from the Champions League champions. That wouldn't be a case at City. But of course, City would also need to sell somebody like Ederson. But they've just signed a very, very good goalkeeper as well. So I hear what people are saying about Donnarumma. He's available. Why doesn't somebody go out and sign him? It's not quite as simple as that.
I'm going to use the B word, brinkmanship. It was less than 2 weeks to go. I think PSG and Gianluigi Donnarumma are probably looking at each other and just having a staring contest. Who's going to blink first here? Simply because PSG, on one side of it, know that Gianluigi Donnarumma needs to play because there's a World Cup next summer. Whereas Gianluigi Donnarumma, I'm not going to rush anywhere until the project is right. And PSG, he knows PSG want to sell him. So the later this goes in the transfer window, could there be a situation where you get into the final few days and there's a situation where PSG think we're not going to get the big transfer fee that we wanted. He's only got a year left on his contract. But if we even loan him for this season or even let him go for free in this transfer window, we actually end up getting rid of the wages as well, because you're looking at 15 to 17 million pounds of a saving that they'll make, rather than the other bit of brinkmanship where they don't do a deal for him. He'll be the number 2 goalkeeper. He won't play, and yet he'll be paid this huge wage.
Where's your gut? What do you think will happen?
I think he'll go. I think a few things still have to happen, though. Particularly, we keep hearing about Manchester City, and there's this interest from Galatasaray in Ederson. Now, if that one wants to come to fruition, there is a chance that Manchester City might approach PSG and Gianluigi Donnarumma's representatives. But as Carve said there hasn't been any approach to his representatives at this stage. That's because the two clubs that we keep talking about, the two Manchester clubs, have still got a full complement of goalkeepers in their department. So until that changes, Donnarumma is not going to go to either of those clubs. But the closer we get to the end of the window, because over the weekend, I think a lot of eyes were on the Manchester City squad as well. And Ederson had a stomach bug. That's why he missed that game. Then you've also got to think about what James Trafford must be thinking. He starts the game, he thinks he's the number one, and then if they suddenly go for Gianluigi Donnarumma, where does that leave him?
Exactly. All right, spoken about Garnacho all window. Is anybody else interested in him, or is it just Chelsea?
It feels like it's just Chelsea, but I mean, Carve's mentioned this throughout the window as well. It seems to be a two-way thing. Chelsea want Garnacho, and it feels like Garnacho's only destination that he wants to go to is Chelsea. There might be clubs in Europe who could be interested. And in a way, Manchester United might prefer to sell to a non-Premier League rival, but by all accounts, he wants to stay in the Premier League. But then the way that this whole sale and potential sale is working out, it's all dependent on, as Carve mentions, sales at Chelsea, and then how long those are going to take before they can actually go and try and do business with United. And the later it goes, I don't know whether that's going to work in United's favour, because as much as they will say £50 million is our valuation, they've made it clear they don't want him at the club anymore. But if you're Chelsea, why would you pay that much? And they will try, and they feel that they can get him for less than £50 million. It's going to be interesting to see how this one options. I'm told that it's not to do with personal terms. This is just a personal decision from Jadon Sancho. A number of other clubs remain interested in him. I think Borussia Dortmund, who he's played for on two different occasions, are keeping an eye on his situation. However, in the last hour or so, our colleagues at Sky in Italy are reporting that even though it's unlikely he would go to Roma at this stage, the Roma head coach, Gianpiero Gasperini, absolutely loves Sancho. He's the one driving a possible transfer of this deal, and they haven't given up. They still feel that they might be able to persuade him, however unlikely it looks at this stage. But you never know. With only a couple of weeks left, what else can materialise for Sancho? Whether he ends up staying at Manchester United again and then going in a January window or again next summer. You also got to remember Besiktas were interested. We don't think Sancho materialises. No formal offer yet, but I think United are expecting one.
Neither of those are centre-backs. We know the head coach wants a centre-back. Any chance he'll get one?
At the moment, no. I think Enzo Maresca obviously came out in public and said that in an ideal world, he wants another centre-back as cover for Levi Colwill. I think Chelsea's feeling is that they have a very, very strong squad. They feel that they have internal solutions.
No, Man United want to sell Garnacho. What about the others we know are in the so-called bomb squad? Sancho, is he off?
I mean, this one rumbles on. And with less than 2 weeks to go, he's still a Manchester United player. That Roma had made a bid worth around £20 million for him. I think Manchester United were pretty happy with that. Sancho spoke to Roma as well. But as it stands, and as of this afternoon, he's unlikely to join AS Roma. He's decided maybe he wants to leave Manchester United. That's because Milan want to do a loan with an option. United, like Rasmus Højlund, want to do a permanent deal, or at least have a permanent element attached to any deal that they do. Significantly, he was left out of the squad altogether against Arsenal yesterday. Having said that, when Ruben Amorim was asked the question about Rasmus Højlund, he's got to be careful what he says. Even though we are saying, yes, he's out of the club, he's been given the message he's got no future there. When he was asked the question, he actually said, look, he's got to fight for his place. We'll see what's going to happen. Rasmus has the same characteristics as Benjamin Sesko, so sometimes we need to choose. Wanting to go to Turkey at this stage of his career. However, our window shuts on September the 1st. The Turkish window shuts on September the 12th. So is there a possibility that later on in the window that one becomes live again? I don't know. But Besiktas, of course, managed by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who managed Sancho at United.
What about Rasmus Højlund?
Right, so at the moment he remains open to a move to AC Milan. However, it's understood at this stage he would prefer a stays because of the length of time that's left in this transfer window. And also Sky in Italy are just reporting in the last few minutes that Romelu Lukaku, who's suffered a bit of an injury at Napoli, they're still trying to find out how long he's going to be out for. They are actually looking at Rasmus Højlund as well as a potential replacement for Lukaku. So the interest is there in him. It's just whether he gets the deal that Manchester United are pleased with, but also Rasmus Højlund is pleased with as well.
Okay, right, now, plenty to come in the last part of the transfer show.